So tell me, how do you measure the length of the Burj Khalifa? Or just let me ask you, what is the depth of a sea? Or if I were to ask you, what is the height of that mountain? So how do you measure it? It sounds quite hectic, isn't it? So there is a method. So the scientists or mathematicians, they follow this trigonometric ratios. So trigonometric ratio is a topic to do the measurement of a thing. So basically trigonometry stands for triangle and the metry stands for measurements. So all the things can be used by if you know the basics of this trigonometry. Okay, so let's begin to understand what is trigonometry. Tri means you know that a triangles, we are going to learn about the triangle measurements and the angles, whatever is there in the triangle. So you are aware that, and especially in this topic we will be learning about the right angle triangle. Now what is right angle triangle? Is the triangle which is having one of the angle as a 90 degrees, we call it as a right angle triangle, isn't it? So if this is a right angle triangle now, so now we have three things here, three sides, we have three angles inside, isn't it? So based on that concept, this entire trigonometric ratio is based upon. Okay, so now we know that one of the angle is 90 degrees and by the angle sum property, the other two angles have to be an acute angle, isn't it? So now we will be learning further about this trigonometric ratio corresponding to either this acute angle, or you can take whichever with reference to. I'll explain it to you how to find it. First of all, we should know how many trigonometric functions are there. So basically there are 6 trigonometric functions. The first is called as a sine function, second is called as a cosine function, third is called as a tangent function, fourth is called as a cotangent, and fifth is called as a secant, and sixth one, the last one, is called as the cosecant function. Okay, the sine, basically we use it as a sin, not a sin, it is just pronounced like a sine, and this is a cos, this is a tan, and this is a cot, this is a sec, and this is a cosec. So now to further continue, if I with respect to this angle, acute angle, if I call this as a theta, so theta is nothing but a, like theta, alpha, beta, these are just the sum of the, we use it as a constants to it's not a constant, but it is like a in terms of angle we use it, theta, alpha, beta, or just directly angle, like this C we can use it as like that. So now with corresponding to this theta, the opposite side to this theta, we call it as a perpendicular. In some places they also call it as a opposite side. So I am referring to both perpendicular or opposite. You can use either of them. With respect to this theta, this part we call it as a base, or some places it is called as a adjacent. Okay, so and this is always a hypotenuse. So hypotenuse is always in the right angle triangle opposite to the right angle triangle. So if you want, I'll write what this each will stand for. H stands for hypotenuse. Then we have P stands for perpendicular. Then we have the this is O, stands for opposite. And also we have here, wait, let me put one line here, and we have B stands for base, and A here stands for adjacent. Okay, so now these are all ready for you. I'm going to now write the ratios for each of this function. Like for example, sine theta here is nothing but the perpendicular upon hypotenuse. Also you can, it is nothing but opposite upon the hypotenuse. Both are same, isn't it? Because perpendicular and opposite, some of the textbooks they use this method as an opposite, and some textbooks they refer to as perpendicular. Similarly for cos theta is nothing but base upon hypotenuse or adjacent upon hypotenuse. Okay, so now tan function is nothing but perpendicular upon base, or we can use it as opposite upon adjacent. Okay, so now secant theta is nothing but, so let me write this theta here. So after the tan we have to now do the cotangent, right? Cotangent is nothing but base upon perpendicular or adjacent upon opposite. Similarly, I'm going to just write it here. The space is very less. So secant theta is nothing but hypotenuse upon base. It's also referred to as hypotenuse upon adjacent. Similarly, the cosec theta is nothing but hypotenuse upon the perpendicular, also hypotenuse upon the opposite. So further, I have want to make you understand by using the mnemonics method. Okay, how do you remember all these things, right? How do you know that sine theta is this only, cos theta is, there is a mnemonics method. So it is a quite interesting mnemonics. So it is nothing but Pandit Badri Prasad. Whereas P for Pandit, B for Badri, P for Prasad, Pandit Badri Prasad. Okay. Har har bole. That is H for her. Okay, I will write it just up here. Har har bole. Okay, that is her stands for H, her stands for H, and B for this. And you just have to put a dash here. And Sona, Chandi, Tole. So here Sona stands for the sine function, Chandi stands for C, cos function, Tole stands for T, that is tan function. So now you see how they are connected. See here, Pandit is nothing but P, Badri is for B, and then Prasad and her H. So you can see here, and the Sona, Chandi, Tole is nothing but S for sine function, C for cos, and T for tan function. So you can see that sine function is nothing but P by H, and cos function is nothing but B by H, and tan function is nothing but P by B. This is a very interesting method, not to forget how to do this. The ratios. So also there is another method if you are using this kind of a thing. So it is nothing but S for sine, O for opposite, and H. So ka, that is C, H cosine, and adjacent, and hypotenuse, and TOA, that is so ka to. That is how you. This is here again spelled it as so ka twa. Cow sha cho. So now I also would like to you might be having questions. Just we learned sine, cos, and tan. What about the remaining, that is cot, secant, and then cosecant? So it is just a very simple thing to understand. That is cotangent is nothing but 1 upon tan, just the opposite. They both are opposite. And similarly secant is nothing but 1 upon cos, and cosec is nothing but 1 upon sine. So if you observe, if you remember this relation, or the vice versa, tan is equal to 1 upon cot, cos is equal to 1 upon secant, sine is equal to 1 upon cosecant. So you might again derive just the opposite. So now sine function is P by H, so cosec will be, so I will just write it, cosec will be just the opposite, P by H. So I can write it here, H upon P, isn't it? Similarly after cosecant, then we can remember as secant. Secant is nothing but just the opposite or reciprocal of this, H upon B, right? And the last one is cot. Cot is nothing but just the opposite of tan, that is B upon P. Okay, so if you know these functions, okay, so you can derive your own thing. Also the last thing I would also like to tell is some of the things, that is tan theta is equal to nothing but sine theta upon cos theta. Okay, this is one of the very important formula to remember in the trigonometric ratio.